Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to the library tour of Doom, where Lord Ganesha and I are testing the strength of your soul, one book at a time. We are going through my library in a library tour that is not bookcase by bookcase, it is not theme by theme, it is not author by author, it is not even shelf by shelf. We're doing it book by book, one book at a time, forever. And today we are looking at an absolute classic of an odd kind, going back to the 1940s. This is The Golden Guide to Birds. Now, this is not an original, of course. It had a million reprints. I believe that we are in a sad and dystopian future in which this book is no longer in print. I'm thinking that is true, and that would be a terrible shame, because for an entire generation of bird enthusiasts, this was worn out, taken everywhere, dropped in streams, dropped in fields, bought again, worn out, all over again, in order to spot, identify, and appreciate the 3 or 4 dozen signature signpost bird species of North America. And it really can't be beat in the sense of a companion in the field. It can most certainly be beat in the sense of a handy identification manual that you carry in your rucksack. And I have some books that beat it in that regard, and we will see them on this library tour. But I'm stressing the companionable, where it's something of the aesthetic experience of encountering these birds is likewise conveyed, in addition to their seasonal molt and their gender differences. That is conveyed largely in here through the artwork, which is by James Gordon Irving, and in which the opening pages give us the family tree of birds, wonderful old anachronistic paintings like that, and also features the parts of a bird. But the main joy of this volume, the thing that caused me to study it even when I wasn't taking it out and about, even when I had no interest in birding, was not so much the material. The text is by Herbert Zim and Ira Gabrielson, and it's very good. It's comprehensive without getting into the weeds. It's inviting to the amateur, but not inaccurate. And I don't discount that at all. But the main glory of this little book are the stories that are told in the paintings of the books themselves. Here is the loon, the common loon, where you get not only the bird. The whole point of an illustration in a bird manual, of course, is that you see the details of the bird clearly, so that you can use the picture to identify the bird. That's the whole point. But look at what else is going on there. Look at how lovely that is. Just how lovely that is, as a way of communicating the world of the loon. Not just the loon itself, not just what it looks like. And that happens throughout this book. I want to show you a few more examples. I won't show you everything, but I'll show you a few more examples because they are so wonderful. Here is the bobwhite in a Midwestern setting. Look at how beautiful that is. There's a farmhouse in the background. Foliage gives you the season. You're not seeing a bobwhite in the middle of winter. You're seeing it in high summer. And you get a sense of where it is. Just delightful. I promise not to overindulge. The mourning dove is one of my favorites. This is another one with a whole vista. It's not just, you can easily identify a mourning dove from that picture. I have them here in the neighborhood. I see them all the time. And the picture does them justice. Even down to the very slight russet in the breast. It's all completely accurate. But there's a picture involved as well. There's a sentiment involved. I think that's just wonderful. Just wonderful. And that goes throughout here. You get hummingbirds, kingfishers, woodpeckers, owls of a few different kinds. You get jays and wrens, and here's just the ordinary robin's redbreast. There on the ground, not in a tree in front of a porticoed house. And I'll just do one more here. Here's the starling. Look at the way this book is. This particular edition is at least 50 years old. You still got the sheen there. And of course, we've learned a lot since this painting was done. We've learned a lot about the fact that these pinions are glowing. They're not just shiny. They're shiny to us because we can't see into the spectrum, but there's a lot more going on there. Starling is a neon light sign. And of course, I pay attention sometimes to the descriptions. Like, for instance, you see there, in addition to the description of the bird and the painting, you'll also get the distribution. You'll get the range of the animal. And a little bit about what to look for. Note the short tail, plump body, and in spring and summer, yellow bill. Younger birds are uniform brown with dark bills, and adults in winter are speckled with white. And it gives you the length for both genders. And in some cases, naturally, I went looking for books. I did that with all the owls in here, but I also did it for the house sparrow. Seen here, not in a field, not in woods, but sitting there on a house with a piece of material that it is going to bring up to its mate. You can barely make out the mate in the background there, in order to continue infiltrating the wainscoting with insulation and nest building. And the description is as follows. This bird, misnamed English sparrow, is not particularly a native of England and definitely is not a sparrow. It is actually a weaver finch. Imported from England in 1850, it became established, spread rapidly, and is now a serious pest. The house sparrow may easily be confused with our native sparrows. The gray crown and black throat of the male are characteristic, as are the unstreaked crown and broad buff line over the eye of the female. And as you can see, the distribution is absolutely universal. The so-called English house sparrow, which is neither English nor a sparrow, is everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. I can attest to this. I have a crowd of these misnamed weaver finches that live here, and boy oh boy, weaver finch as a name really does them justice, because the ones that I have live in the wainscoting of the house, so they have fortressed it. They move around inside it, but there is also a colony that lives in the hedges of the house next door. And rather charmingly for Boston, there's a colony that lives in the low shrubbery of the landscaping of the Dunkin' Donuts. That's a block away. They live in those low shrubberies. You wouldn't think they would, because unlike the wainscoting of the house, and unlike, to a certain extent, hedges or trees, low limbs of trees, that low-lying landscape shrubbery is perfectly vulnerable to feral cats or rats or voles, all of which we have here. Maybe we don't have them in sufficient numbers. Maybe that's how that colony is able to survive generation after generation. But one way or another, I have had occasion to notice in those three communities that I know really well and that I feed on a regular basis, I've had occasion to notice that when they are forced to build a nest, boy oh boy, you see where a weaver bird comes in, because those nests are tough. It takes work to pull one apart. A discarded one on the ground. It takes work to pull it apart. But here you have bobolink. Look at that. Isn't that lovely? Just crying to the open air. So that is your book for today. It is the Golden Guide to Birds. Now, Golden Guide, there were a whole bunch of these. I naturally have read and destroyed a million copies of the one on bats. But the one on bats is maybe a little less useful. Field guides to bats are a little, especially little bats, echolocation bats, are generally more useless than bird guides, because you're not going to be able to consult it. You're going to be in the dark, literally in the dark. You consult it by flashlight. But even so, the little Golden Guide to Bats is a compendium of the faces of some the people that I know very well. So I have torn that apart. There's one for mammals. There's one for snakes. There's one for insects. There's one for trees. I've at one point or another had this whole library. I think they're just incredible, and now they're so incredibly interwoven with personal nostalgia for me that I wouldn't see their defects anyway, even if they were glaring. And I don't think they are. I think these work really well, and they have a superiority over a lot of field guides that you can get in your bookstore now, in that they are incredibly easy to use. You can stick this in a pocket of your pants. Whereas a big laminated page plastic field guide, you cannot. You absolutely cannot. You're supposed to be carrying that in your hand while you're walking. Not always practical. This thing is incredibly practical. An invitation to explore the world of birds. That is your book for today. A pure sentimental winner for me. But who knows what tomorrow will bring? More ire, maybe. We'll see. We'll find out together. Thank you, BookTube.